Hello, everybody. I am Sarah Grace. As I said, I'm president of Impact 100, and it's my job today to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So Impact 100 is an all-women's collective giving organization, and our mission is to empower women to dramatically improve lives by collectively funding significant grants that make a lasting impact in our community, which is a lot of words. And the way that works is that we have women join at either a $500 or $1,000 level. And then we pool those monies into grants of at least $100,000. And we ask local nonprofits to submit grant applications in one of our 5 focus areas, which are family, health and wellness, education, culture, and then environment, recreation, and preservation. So very broad spectrum of buckets that we ask our nonprofits to submit to. And then the whole process of vetting the applications is run by our members. So our members come together in what we call focus area committees, and they review the letters of intent that are original submissions, grant applications, they perform financial analysis, they do site visits, and ultimately our membership is asked to select our finalists, or our grant finalists, and then our recipients. So in September at our annual award celebration, typically we will have a live presentation from our grant finalists and a live vote. However, due to COVID, that will be different this year. However, we'll still have a selection process prior to the annual award celebration where our members will select who they would like the grant dollars to go to. And then we will announce live during our virtual annual award celebration who is going to take home the 4 grants that we have this year. And then we partner relatively long-term with our nonprofit partners. We typically do a 1 to 3 year partnership with them as they get their project up and running. We were founded in 2001, and since then we've awarded out over $5 million to local nonprofits for a total of 47 transformational projects of at least $100,000, which is pretty amazing. And I think there are so many things that make Impact 100 special, but the 3 really big things for me are one, that 100% of the grant dollars or of your membership dollars go to the grant pool. So there's no fees. Your $500 or $1,000 are put directly back into the community for investment. 2, our members can be uninvolved or as involved as they'd like. It's a build your own adventure situation. So you can write your check every year and know that your other members are going to be great stewards of your funds, or you can be president like me. I mean, there's like a wide berth of things you could be doing within Impact 100. And then lastly, we are 100% working board. So we have one outsourced administrator who helps keep us in line. But other than that, it's our 24 board members making the dream work. So we're a busy group, but it's a powerful group, and I'm so impressed time and again at how effective we are and the amazing things that this group of women can do. And then briefly, what I'd like to say, and I always like to say this, is since 100% of member dollars go into the grant pool, we start every year with 0 operating funds. And so we like to thank our sponsors. They're hugely beneficial to us and the work we do. We can't do it without them. We also have opportunities for corporate matches and gifts as well from our members and the community at large. But we definitely like to take a second and thank our sponsors. And I now, since I've done my little spiel, have the pleasure of introducing you all to Van, who is the executive director of NEST. And I'm going to mute myself and put up her PowerPoint and let her get going.
Well, hi, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our story and what NEST is all about. Again, my name is Evangeline Duvall. I go by Van. I am the founder and executive director of NEST Community Learning Center. NEST is a very unique program. It is an academic program specifically designed for at-risk kids. But what makes us so unique and really different is that we travel every single day into low-income neighborhoods with mobile classrooms and work with them on academics literally just steps away from their own front door, which goes ahead and takes away a lot of the barriers that these kids have to do well academically in school. So why NEST? Just a little bit of background before we get going, and I'm hoping that our pictures will, I'm just going to introduce each segment and then pretty much just let you look at the pictures because I think that they speak for themselves on the PowerPoint. So the war on poverty here in the United States was declared in 1964 during the Johnson administration. And at that time, we had about 19% of all the children in this country were at or below the poverty level. 56 years later and 24 trillion federal dollars later, we now have almost 22% or 17 million kids in poverty. So we haven't done what we needed to do. And when we look at where all that money's been spent, it's been spent on food, clothing, shelter, and housing, and medical care, which is terribly important, but it's not moving anything. They're really just Band-Aids for the time. So we know through every government agency, every private agency, that the only way children are going to get out of poverty, that are born in poverty, is through education and then getting a good job. And it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening as well as it should have been. So that's why NEST was designed, and that's what our focus is every single day, all year long. And our outcomes have been amazing. So we have 3 programs. The first is an after-school program, which you're looking at right now, where we travel into each of the different locations and set up, and we do homework with the kids. We tutor them. We actually feed them because we do support the whole child nutritionally. As well as our training is par none. At-risk kids, because their brain develops completely different than middle-class kids. The human brain does not finish developing until you're about 22 years old. And a lot of different factors can get in the way of your cognitive growth. I happen to be a bit of a geek when that comes to that kind of stuff. I have a great relationship with some folks at Harvard Medical School because of what we do. So we've kind of got the secret sauce, if you will. Does it work on every kid? I wish it did. But because we are neurologically trained, as well as trauma trained, as well as academically trained, we really give these kids a really good shot. Most low-income kids are about 2 years behind their middle-class peers. Again, it's not because of anything of how they were born, it's more where they were born and what's going on in their little lives. They don't learn the same way, and most of our school systems, in fact, all of them, are geared to teach the middle class and teach to the middle, and so our kids fall off. So we need to give them a fighting chance. We believe that every child is precious, and we believe that every child has skills and abilities and things that make their heart sing, that all put together in this one little person is completely different than anybody else. And if we nurture that, if we tell them every day how important they are, how valuable they are, and help them get to school, be prepared, and do well, these kids are going to take off. And that's what our goal is every day, that they come work with us, they leave with a full stomach of really good stuff. We partner with La Soup and just a whole, and everything that we serve them is high quality. Tons of fresh fruit. We go through tons every single day to nurture their brain and their bodies. And we also do a lot of sports with them if we can, because there's a high correlation between physical activity and brain and memory retention, which is something that these kids really struggle with because of the cognitive pieces and ACEs, if you know anything about that, and toxic stress. So this is you're looking at now our early learners program. We know that kids that enter kindergarten that are in poverty are typically 2 years behind their middle-class peers, and most of them will never catch up. So we're really proud of this program. In fact, every child that has gone through our early learners program has ended up kindergarten ready, and we're very excited about that. Now this is our summer program. So we have our after-school program and our early learners program. This is typically what our summer program looks like. Our summer program is really a skill retention program that we have disguised as summer camp. And we go out and we do sports with the kids, and we do crafts with the kids, but we also do a reading program. We also do a lot of really fun skill retention projects. We have people come and do their capstones, and we do a lot of science and a lot of math. And the intervention specialists at the school tell us that any child that's involved in NEST doesn't have that summer where they typically kids have a summer loss, academic loss over the summer, and our kids is very minimal, if at all, by the time they get back into school. You're seeing pictures of some of our fundraising too. Our community is amazing, and they have supported us from soup to nuts all the way through. The reason that NEST is so successful is because of the community, not just us. It's not a one-size-fits-all program. It's the community coming together with the community to serve the community. The best people to serve a community and really meet its needs for its low-income families, and specifically for its low-income kids, are the people that live in that community. We have a great relationship with the fire department, with the police department, with the high schoolers, with sports teams, with churches that fund us, because we're all investing back into our own community, just like Impact 100 does. So you're investing in these nonprofits within your own community. So these are the pictures that you're seeing right now. And we have youth groups from around the country that come and help us, because it takes us 40 to 50 people a day to pull this shindig off. We not only feed the kids a very nutritious lunch, but we also send home groceries in the evening as well for them and their families. So that's what summer looks like. And unfortunately, this has been a very odd summer, kind of since COVID hit us. But this is what this looks like. So I'll just give you a second to look at Summer Crazy. It really is very organized. It doesn't look like it, but it is. All of our volunteers have background checks. All of them are, as I said, trauma trained, and they're all a lot of expectations. And it's very well organized. And I will say, we're in the middle of a lot of places where there's a lot of drug deals, a lot of risky business, a lot of different stuff that goes on. And we have never, since we started in 2016, had one incident, not one. So I'm very proud. That was me taking a pie in the face for $5,000. You guys need to be impressed. We'll do anything for our kids, literally anything. So then now we're gonna transition in a second. I'm just gonna ask you, okay, can we stop right now the slides, please, for just a second? All right, so on March 12, 2020, Governor Mike DeWine made an unprecedented announcement ordering all Ohio's public schools, the schools to close. So that changed everything for everybody, including NEST. All of a sudden, our after-school program had to come to a screeching halt, and we were very concerned. So 2 days prior to that, on the Wednesday, the school got in touch with us and said, "We need your help. We have over 800 kids that are on free and reduced lunch and free and reduced breakfast in our school system, and we don't think that they're going to get fed, because now the school has been shut down. NEST provides dinner for all of our kids, and we provide weekend food for all of our kids. Is there some way we can put this together so that we can still keep an eye on our kids and serve our kids?" And we said, absolutely. So literally within 48 hours, we came up with a whole different plan of what we were going to do. And we moved up into the high school. And from then, from the 16th on, I think it was the 16th of March on to the end of the school, we worked in partnership with the school. That's always been a great collaborator with us, because they have to be. We have to communicate and depend on each other to help these kids. And that's what you're about to see now, what that looked like. I will just give you a little bit of background right now on these kids and what this looks like for them. This is all the stuff that we had to have for these kids. We were in emergency mode. We needed to get food, we needed to get volunteers. So all of our mobile classrooms literally got turned into delivery. But we also had to keep an eye on our kids because we knew if we didn't, the school kept an eye on them but with us, and now nobody was keeping an eye on them. So this is what this looked like at the school when COVID hit. This is all before you had to wear a mask. I'm just telling you. And then after that, we had to. But this is what showing out went out every single day, and all that stuff that we did. And then when the governor said we had to wear masks and gloves, it was a whole nother thing. But this is just what it looked like up at the high school, and actually still does today. We now have 5 vehicles. 2 of them we're taking to C&E, which is that whole funding part from Impact 100, which I will explain here in a second. I'm sorry, if somebody stuck up a question, it went away too fast for me to look at it. We had a lot of business partners. That's owners of Jersey Mike's. They treated all 275 of our kids that one day. This is from Trader Joe's. They were a great partner too. What school do we do? We're in a Loveland School District right now. LeSoup partners with us all the time. Ron's Market, that's where we get all of our wonderful meats and cheeses and things like that. Whole Foods would supply us milk. They were terrific. Cracker Barrel, they would bring us all this fresh produce like nobody's business. Half of the time we were like, what are we going to do with this? Skips is a bagel place not very far, and they would bring us bagels all the time. We had a lot of great publicity from Channel 5 and Channel 9. As a matter of fact, because of their input into what we were doing, we got books after books after books that we could give out to our kids along with the support. Everything had to come into the dock that was donated. Then we had to clean it off just like everybody else and write it in our in-kind, take it inside, and get it all together. We did lots of fundraisers were done on our behalf, wrote grants like nobody's business. But this just gives you an idea of what we were doing at the end of school. So this is us working obviously with again, this was prior needing masks. We also became Pony Express, if you will, for a lot of the other nonprofits in Loveland, like our food pantry and care center, and even the police and some of the schools, because we are out every single day in the communities that we were able to pass along information and notes and applications and telling them what was going on as far as job fairs or how to apply for unemployment. So we became the hub for all the other nonprofits in Loveland because, again, we were in a very unique position. It was a God thing for us for sure. So 11 weeks later, 43,507 meals were served. Now, this is our summer program. So we wanted to stay in touch with our kids over the summer. The school is now out of the picture, and it was all us. You're going to see some pictures here of some people putting together what we call academic packets. The 3 main goals of our summer were, number 1, to keep these kids, their brains academically engaged. We partnered with a company called Strive Academy, who does tactile lesson plans specifically in science and math. And we couldn't do all this stuff with the kids like we did in the summer. So we went ahead and made packets to send out with our food. So the academic packets in science, math, language arts. Again, this is all the fundraising that went on our behalf. And the kids get a different packet in all of those and a book every single week. And when they return stuff to us, they get ice cream with their lunch. We don't take it back, but just so we can see. So they're growing seeds and they're doing all sorts of wind experiments. And also, we just wanted to get them out of in front of the TV because Kings Island was closed. They didn't have any place to go. And we needed to keep them engaged as best we could. So that's been our focus all summer. That's number 1. Second was we had to continue to feed these kids. If you're on the SNAP program, which is the food stamps, they're almost 60 days behind getting that stuff out to our families because of the need is so high. We also know that a lot of the unemployment took a really long time. We also know that the stimulus checks always, that's your brand new RV, by the way, ladies. So in the meantime, when we're doing all this, is we're purchasing 2 other vehicles to change into classrooms, use the money that Impact 100 gave us in our grant to supply it with everything that we need to move and start a NEST program in Claremont Northeastern School District. We started remodeling and doing all that kind of stuff before COVID hit, and as soon as COVID hit, we weren't allowed to have all these people on the RV that we're changing into a classroom. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But the other reason we need to stay in these kids' lives over the summer is drugs are up in Ohio, 14%. The drug of choice right now is methamphetamines. I'm part of an opiate task force because if crazy's coming, I want to see what it looks like. And we know it's still all coming out of Dayton. And we know that the reason that a lot of low-income families were using meth was because it was so cheap. As soon as they got the stimulus checks, however, the price of meth went up. And so the fallacy was, oh, our kids are getting all this extra money, this food to be taken care of during this pandemic. The reality was they were not. So we needed to keep an eye on them. We need to keep them fed. The other thing is because we also know that child abuse was up. We also know suicide was up for young teens, 20%. That's our team, our interns for the summer. That was our paid staff. So we needed to make sure that we saw those kids. Can you hold on this for just this slide for just a second? So we developed a system where our interns who went out, who we hired to do this, because we couldn't rely on volunteers. We couldn't keep training people to be able to do this program, not with all the COVID regulations, not to keep everybody safe. So we, for the first time, did not use volunteers except for to pack all of our foods and put all of our academic packets together. The whole community came to do that. We put it out on Facebook and we had 100 families say, we'll put together academic packets for you. You can see we did 4,400 academic packets were made and sent out to kids in math, science, and so on. But so stepping back for just a second, we knew that child abuse is up, spousal abuse is up, teen suicide is up almost 28%, and we need to keep an eye on our kids. So we put together a system where all of our interns knew these kids. They were out at the same places every day. If they didn't see a kid in a couple of days, they let me know, and my job was to find them. Sometimes I had to use the police, sometimes I didn't, but these kids are precious. And we needed to make sure they just didn't disappear. We have a great relationship with the police department. In fact, they feel that they tell us all the time that when we're out there, there's less calls to them, less drugs going on, less risky business. So as of today, actually tomorrow, we have completed in changing our programs for the last 20 weeks. We've had over, besides our interns, or over 4,000 volunteer hours. That's how many meals in total has been served to the at-risk in this community. Lots of multiple fundraisers, because our fundraisers have been dead in the water because we haven't been able to do our normal stuff because of COVID. Again, the academic kits, that's how many books we've given away, and we're giving more actually away today. And the bottom, the $57,078 is the dollar value of all the in-kind donations, food, books, you name it, that have been given by this community to support the kids and the families in this community. And this whole program is, this is what we want to do in C&E. So that, there's one more slide after this. We'll just go to the last one and kind of hold on to it, and then I can answer questions if anybody wants to. This is really important. There can be no keener revelation of society's soul than how it treats its children, the way it treats its children. We live by this, and every single day, the other thing we live by every single day with our volunteers is you are what you leave behind. And that's not just at the end of your life, it's every single day. Every single day we encounter other people, and they leave a piece of them with us, and we leave a piece of ourselves with them. And we tell our volunteers to make sure that when they leave a kid that they've been working with that day, to make sure they leave the very best part of themselves. With all this, all our programming, everything, we had applied to Impact 100 to take to C&E. And we were very excited about going to C&E. This is our first time, because we've only been around since 2016. We have now 5 vehicles. God has blessed us in amazing ways. Every time we turn around, we're going, wow, I didn't see that coming. It isn't that great. We know that, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all program, and we have got to expand school district by school district. We had been, as a group, really praying about where to go next. We had a lot of different places get in touch with us and say, hey, come out here, we would love to have you, that kind of stuff. As far away as Arizona, there's some Indian reservations that have said, hey, come do this with our kids. We have something going up that reached out to us from New England, and we've even had other places in Claremont County, as well as just up the street in Lebanon. So we can't go to all these places, but they're liking our outcomes, and they're liking how simple this is. And it's terribly cost effective because we're not brick and mortar. So long story short, I received a phone call out of the blue from the superintendent from Claremont Northeastern and said, I understand you're looking for a partner to expand. And he said, look no further. We want you. And it was right in the middle of all the vetting by Impact 100. We'd written an LOI just saying we wanted to expand, but we didn't have a place. But right in the middle of it, when you guys needed to know where we were going to go, we all of a sudden get this phone call from Mike Brandt, who used to be the superintendent of CPS. And we could not be more thrilled. They have given us office space up there. We have 2 vehicles now that are going out there. We spent a lot of time with their teachers. We've gotten, Loveland is 17 miles. That's the school district. Out there is 80. And part of it is Appalachia. And there's a lot of rural poor that they haven't been able to reach, as well as suburban poor. The entire school district doesn't even have when IGA closed, there's not even a grocery store in that whole school district. A lot of the kids are eating out of Dollar Generals. It is a perfect place for us. And Claremont is Claremont Northeastern. It's also the poorest school district in Claremont County, and it's the most challenging. Most of the opiate deaths and overdoses that we have here in Ohio come from there. We also have a lot of kids taken into foster care. And if you know anything about foster care, it's not the most perfect program in the world. One other thing that really is a challenge for me is that Ohio is the #1 state in all of the Midwest that traffics children in the sex trade. And 80% of those kids, now a little less than that depending, comes from foster care. And this is where foster care is the biggest, most of the kids are coming out of, is Claremont Northeastern School District. And we feel very strongly that God has put us there not only for the academic piece, not only for the food piece, not only just to love on these kids and tell them how they're important, but we're going to go nose to nose with this if we can. And so we would never have been able to do one single moment of this without the monies from Impact 100. So ladies, you guys, and I'm going to try not to tear up, and I apologize, but you guys are affecting children that you will never even meet or know their name. And I could not be more grateful. So on behalf of myself and our staff and all the kids that we are going to interact with and that we're going to change the trajectory of their lives because they deserve a fighting chance, thank you very, very much. So I'll gather myself, and does anybody have any questions?
And we had a few in the chat that did not get specifically answered. One was I'm going to ask it two different ways. In a traditional year, how many kids would you serve? And then during COVID, how many kids do you think you served?
Well, in a traditional, it's about 275 on average. Kids will go in and out of our program. Part of that is this demographics that we serve is very transient. Just as a backdrop, in Hamilton County alone, we're 40,000 units short of affordable housing, which means that if you're in HUD housing and you get evicted, you have to leave the county. Not only do you have to leave the county, but you're never allowed to get into HUD housing ever again. And so the people that own these properties, by the way, they're making millions and millions of dollars because it's such a little cottage industry. All of the low-income housing that we have here in Loveland, not one of them are even owned by companies or individuals that live in the state of Ohio. They come in, buy up these properties, but the managers can easily get rid of people almost for nothing. I mean, you can have one of your high schoolers act out and they're 3 strikes and you're gone. And so we lose a lot of kids that way. We lose a lot of kids that are going into foster care. And that's a whole nother subject that is very near and dear to my heart, because sometimes we see them when they come back, and sometimes one minute they're there and the next minute they're not. And it leaves a lot of, so that's what that looks like. But do we have more kids than that registered? We do, but that keeps us busy for sure. Now in COVID, when that started, we attempted to feed as many of and we didn't see every kid every single day either, but we partnered with the school partner. Nobody likes that word, but collaborated with the school to make sure that we had the little hubs of where most of these kids lived. We also, because of our vehicles and because of our massive volunteer roles, we were able to do home deliveries. And so we spent all day feeding these kids. I mean, all day. And I think at last count, it was close to 500. And we didn't even count the little guys, the ones that are 3s and 4s and 2s and all the rest of it. They would call up and say, we started a new phone number specifically for this. And so they would call up and say, we need food, or a nurse would call us, or a pastor would call us and say, and we were like, we're on it. How many kids are in the family? What do you need? Do you have any allergies? We'd be running up to the school here, there, and everywhere, packing up the car and taking stuff. So that's kind of how that looked. Now, when school starts again, how many kids are we going to have retained from the summer program or the feeding program with the school? Your guess is as good as mine, but we just don't want to turn kids away. So if we have to extend our hours, we're out every single day in our school program from 3 in the afternoon till 9 o'clock. If we have to buy some more vehicles so that we can go and stay longer in each of these places, because we serviced 4 different locations every day in exactly the same order, so the kids knew exactly when we're going to be there. And now we're adding 2 out in C&E. But if we need to, we'll buy some more vehicles. Again, our challenge is just like everybody else's. We have, volunteers, money, all that kind of stuff. But God's got this, so we'll be fine. So does that answer, hopefully, somebody? The size of our staff, there's 6 of us. I'm the only full-time paid person, and I founded this and did this for 18 months without a penny. My kids thought I'd lost my mind. And now we have the other 5 are part-time, but they all put in full-time hours. We are so, so blessed. to do what we do. And then the rest are all volunteers. Again, it takes between 20 to 25 people in our after school program a day to pull the shindig off. And during the summer, it takes up to 40 people a day. And we constantly are telling people, people that ask to volunteer, we don't have any slots left. So we're really proud of that piece. People really want. And the other thing is that I still hear from a lot of our high school kids that came, and we would hire them as tutors because we needed that consistency. They're still writing, sending me emails or writing me a note or calling me on the phone and saying, I just signed, you know, they're in Indiana or they're wherever they are. I just signed up to serve in this nonprofit locally because I still remember what Nest felt like. Where do we store all the supplies? Well, come into my house and see. It's taken over my entire house. Literally, the 3 bedrooms upstairs are completely full to the ceiling. We stored a lot of stuff at the high school. It's kind of all over. We have friends' basements, the whole 9 yards. We would really like to get a storage unit, but we refuse to pay the price to do that. Are you seeing high school students in well? Yes, we are. We are very concerned here in Loveland. We had a levy. If you didn't hear about Loveland's levy last year, congratulations. The rest of the world did. But anyway, it was defeated. And one of the things that they had to cut back on was busing for high schoolers. That's a real problem for me because our kids didn't do well online academically. And we have about 200 high school kids that now do not have any busing. And so I am privately, not in Nest because I'm not allowed to be by the board, I'm privately trying to raise money to get these kids to school so they don't have to stay virtually. What was that question? I'm sorry, it went too fast. Somebody asked me, what was the question prior to this? I'm sorry. Something about
what are you seeing high school students as well?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Are you seeing high school students?
Yes, I'm seeing high school students, but there was one after that. We're seeing that afterwards.
And will you be able to do any social distancing?
We will. We are not going by the CDC's rules. They've been all over the place and they tend to not catch up. What we're closely associated with is the American Pediatric Association, American Association Pediatrics, and we have someone that's guiding us from there. And one of the things we're going to do, they said that we can get closer than 6 feet if we wear shields. So we're going to wear shields. And we've got shields for all of our kids. What we're going to do is they are going to have their names on them, and we're going to collect them and give them out each day, and then come home and just go ahead and wash them, and they're completely sterilized. You can't teach if you can't see somebody's mouth. I can't teach a kid to read if I can't see their mouth. Also, on our mobile classrooms, not only do we have the sports equipment and library and everything you need for an after-school program, hotspots, because half of our families don't have internet, but we also have tables and chairs and tents, which you saw in the summer program, that when the weather is going to be warm enough, that's how we're going to start out our programs. And we're going to disinfect every single night. And so that's how we presented that plan to the American Association of Pediatrics as well as the Ohio Department of Health, and both of those have been approved. So that's what we're going to be attempting. Anybody else? I promised I wasn't going to talk, and I did through the whole flipping thing.
That was good.
So,
I was gonna say I could ask you like 100 more questions, but I don't want to. I know we said this would be an hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you need to leave, want to leave, no problem. We will not judge you for jumping off. But one of my favorite questions to ask here at the end, and is if anyone was compelled to contribute directly to your nonprofit, what would you ask for? Where would you send them? Volunteer opportunities, or
everything's on our website. Our website is nestclc.org. and you will see everything up there, including how to volunteer. We don't have anything up there yet because we're putting all that back together again. We're doing another trauma video, and that'll take you wherever you need to go for sure. It gives you a little background and all the rest of it, and shows you our programs, and we're constantly updating that. As far as donations, people are donation weary, which we completely understand. But I will say that we would, just about every single penny we get goes towards the kids. We're working in what we're doing. We only have this very limited staff exactly for that reason. We want to make sure every penny goes to these kids. Feeding these kids is very expensive. All of our kids have what we call corrupted palates. They only like things that are sweet, salty, or really hot, spicy, and all of them are vitamin deficient. And everything that they're eating that they can afford, whether it's from a food pantry, because it's shelf stable, has very little nutritional value for these kids. Again, as I mentioned, the human brain doesn't finish developing until you're 22 years old. So all these chemicals and preservatives have actually retarded, I hate using that word, but retarded academic growth in the portion of their brain where a lot of this memory retention, a lot of different skills are learned and sorted out, if you will, through executive functioning skills. And that's a lot of behavior problems comes from that. A lot of stuff is misdiagnosed, and we've got kids that have been misdiagnosed as ADHD or even on the spectrum, autism spectrum, that literally when we took those things out of they didn't eat all those chemicals and stuff again, all that dissipated. So we can't change what these folks can afford to eat. Even though it tastes like food, there's nothing in it. There's no food in it. Some of it, there's not one ounce of food in it. But we can be the counterbalance of that. So when we feed our kids, it is the most high quality stuff you will ever see. And our biggest line item on our budget for every program is our food. And there's a lot of things that you can steal from us if you really wanted to steal from us when you left our mobile classrooms. But the one thing that gets stolen all the time is fresh fruit. They'll fill their pockets. They're allowed to have 2 pieces of fresh fruit on the mobile classroom, and then they're allowed to take 2 pieces home for breakfast when they wake up. But these kids will take as much as they can. And we probably go through at least almost $100 a day just in fresh fruit. So that's where your money would go, ladies.
Well, Van, I mean, as always, we love seeing you. We love hearing from you, and your passion and heart for what you do shines through Zoom. I mean, I can only imagine what this would be like in person. So thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. It's all my pleasure. Because I want people to know what it looks like in your own backyard. Because since 2012, as I said, there's more at-risk kids in the suburbs than there are downtown anymore. And we can talk about how that happened and why that happened and why it's fallen apart. But you've got them right in your own backyard. And we want Nest to be a program that can be done in any suburban community across the United States, and that's what our dream is. So one school district at a time. But it's my pleasure to talk to you ladies for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to do one more quick plug here. For those of you that are not currently Impact 100 members, if you want to be a part of this women's organization that funds $100,000 grants to nonprofits like Nest, you can do that by being a full member or half member. Membership dues are just due at the end of the year, December 31st. Of course, you can pay anytime before then. We'd welcome that. But you can be a full member, half member. You can be 110% to help offset some of our cost, because 100% of your dollars do go back to the nonprofits. And our members pay in many different ways: check, credit card, stock transfer, and of course, employee match. Some employers will match your gifts, so that's an awesome way to just, again, give back to organizations that, more money to the organizations that you care about. And then finally, if this was not enough, this was not compelling enough to see Van come to tears about receiving that $100,000 grant, you can learn more about Impact 100 by joining unfortunately, as of right now, it's our last Step Up series is this Saturday, which has been a great way to meet other Impact 100 members outside of your home, if you can imagine that. And then we do currently only have 2 more live events coming up on Thursdays. And it's fun to announce we have our annual award celebration coming up on September 10th. I hope I got that date right. Again, that's being mostly done virtually, but we'll have many more, much more information coming soon on that, and members and non-members will be able to watch. And then, of course, we have our equity champions going on right now. DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives has been very important to Impact 100 the past couple of years. And we currently have 3 different learning tracks for our members going on. But if you just want to jump in and see what the conversations look like as far as what's going on in our society, if you want to learn more and just hear from other Impact 100 members on that topic, you can jump on to our Equity Cohorts Facebook page. And then finally, I just want to add that, and Sarah Grace posted that link, and I'm going to post as well in the chat, the link to our YouTube page. We've done, I think Barb and I have done like 10 other of these live events, and we've recorded almost all of them if we didn't accidentally hit forget.
I think so.
We hit record. So if you just want to check in and see what the other nonprofits were up to, they're on our YouTube page, and you can see those. You'll be able to see this one on there. So if you were like, just thought this was amazing and you want to tell other people about Impact 100 and Nest, you can share the link to this recording probably the next day or so. It'll be up on our YouTube page. So thank you all for joining and sticking with us here on our overage time. Janet, thank you so much. And Sharon, thank you so much for pulling this together and getting your friends. And
yeah, thank you.
This was wonderful. Van, again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thanks for joining, ladies.